Hey guys, this is Mauisnake bringing you another pro player analysis video, and today I'm going to be covering k0nfig, the 21-year-old player for OptiC Gaming. Last year, HLTV ranked k0nfig as the 14th best player in the world. In the last 3 months, he's posted up a 1.16 rating and has a very impressive 57.2 headshot percentage. The game I'm going to be covering for you guys is from the DreamHack Masters Stockholm Close Qualifier, and it's OptiC versus Space Soldiers. This is map 3, and the winner would be going into the winter finals to try to secure a slot into this tournament. The team that OptiC do end up playing, as they do win this match, is 3D Max, and OptiC beat them in 3 games, but definitely were the favorites going into that one. So, a lot along the line for both of these teams. This is Game 3, k0nfig, most kills, most damage, highest rating in the server. Let's see how he does it. So, starting with the pistol here, we're going to see k0nfig not really buy too much. He has a nice set of really nice knife there though. It's a Emerald M9 Bayo. Pretty ugly Glock, I'd say, reactor Glock, but no worries. Let's look at his play now. So it's pretty much a B exec coming out from his team. His teammates really just get shredded. He does find a headshot of his own there, but he's down to a 1v3 now. See how he plays it. Plays around the first pillar, but Xantares just swings on him, and that's all it really takes for him to get that. Xantares not really playing around his team too much there, honestly. There's definitely more that he could have done to ensure that round victory, but overall, not the craziest of rounds. So this round, what his team is setting up here seems to be a kind of a fake A. So him and Snappy, as you can see, both bought utility into this round, so they're going to be throwing smokes. k0nfig's is obviously going to be for stairs, and Snappy's is going to be pretty sure for jungle. So they're going to throw those out and just kind of waste some utility now towards this A spot. What the rest of his team was doing was actually kind of a fake. He was going to probably commit there with Snappy, but really good entry from k0nfig there. I mean, he just crouches out there. It's a pretty standard peek, I'd say, for a deagle. You kind of know that the CT is going to be playing in that ticket booth position a lot of the time. That's the retake A kind of setup. And with him opening this site up, it's pretty much a free plant for Yugi. He's a little worried about the palace position, but decides to get a better position now. Has playing around triple against rifles, if he does know that these guys are on M4s, is not really the strongest play, but takes another fight against Engine there. He kind of widely committed for that. The thing is that he has a teammates k0n and Snappy. They're both on the flank, so it's not really all too bad if he does get taken out there, as there is a lot of insurance on the round, but he does really commit for that. And that's something you're going to notice about k0nfig's play in general, is that he commits to a lot of fights. He's very confident in his aim, and there's, I mean, not many people that can hang with him, honestly, in an aim-to-aim duel. So he frequently puts that to good use. So here he's setting up a flashbang for his team. This is just a really standard 2-2-1 kind of A split. The single mid player is just kind of using his utility, drawing perhaps some of the players away from A, pushing the guy into connector. Calyx takes the bait. He kind of moves towards connector as this is going on. He even thinks it's going to be to beat at this point. So k0nfig and the rest of his team just get onto the bomb site for free. So that means just Snappy did a really good job in this round. k0nfig, though, finds the plant, just plants default. Doesn't want to really risk anything there. They still have palace control, and when you have palace control, default is a great spot to plant. It's really nice to have CT also when you plant for default, but they kind of realize that Space Soldiers are giving up the round at this point, so it doesn't really matter all too much about his planting position. I think I would have preferred something like triple, just because it gives a little more, a few more angles for his team. For example, right now he couldn't see the bomb if all his teammates are to die, but they pretty much know what's going to happen in this round, so that's pretty much it for this one. So next round, pretty much the same utility. Major was able to find the kill, I think, on a Snappy at the end, so he has his MP7, but pretty much the same anti-eco is going to be called here. This is the same kind of 1-2-2 play that's coming out. Calyx finds a really good shot onto Yugi, and now it's up to them to try to get onto the bomb site. Spotting Engine allows k0nfig to swing on him. But now k0nfig's just kind of working his way up on the bomb site. Notice his route on the site isn't exposing him to CT. Really fast shot there. But notice the route there that he takes is actually, instead of kind of running into the bomb site, exposing himself to many angles at once, trying to clear everything, he swings on the right side of the boxes. I mean, that's just a really standard route. You don't really want to expose yourself to too many angles at the same time. And with the utility that was used and his teammates' positions, he doesn't really need to overexpose himself there. CT, perfect. So, early round, he's going for mid control by himself, and he gets a little careless there. Throws those flashes, thinks that can get him into the smoke, but Major, the thing about those flashes is that the way they bounce off of this is that they kind of land behind Major, so if anyone pushes, like, right here, actually, they do land around this area, but Major, I mean, if you stand right here, you can kind of get half blind, or you can just see them coming. They're not really the best pop flashes, per se, for coming out by yourself, so he does get caught there, and really gets killed by the only way that he can get killed, someone pushing up like that. He doesn't expect it. He kind of didn't seem completely ready for that duel. But k0nfig now really being aggressive, just kind of a mid-flood for his team, and he just finds 2 opening headshots, and that double entry is pretty much going to be enough to secure the round right there. He begins to even hunt for more, knowing that the last player should be towards B, given that they killed 1 mid, 1 cat, 2 towards A. So it's very likely that Engine is going to be over here, but he's just going to be posted waiting for him. They don't want to give up too much in this round. Notice the economy for the other team, or for OptiC right now. k0nfig has $700. k0n and Snappy both have $5,700. If they had more economy, I could see them hunting a little harder, but right now they're trying to build that economy. They're trying to ensure that they keep as many guns alive as they can into the next round, so that if they do lose a round, they still have something to work with. So if they're just going to give up guns and Engine's able to mow them all down, then they're going to actually be really hurting there. So another quick A play. This is kind of looking like the same anti-eco from before. OptiC seems to like this one, just the 1-2-2 play. A little bit of utility along with it, but mostly just kind of hard clearing coming out from k0nfig here. He's just going to be taking the aim duel here. Gets the 1-tap on a Calyx. I mean, that's just nuts. I mean, k0nfig's aim is just really, I think, what makes him so exciting to watch, and his confidence in a lot of duels. So, again, makes his same route. Notice he doesn't go into the site. He goes around it on the side. And now he's just posting up, waiting for any kind of rotator. He doesn't realize, though, that Major is right here. Major doesn't know that k0nfig's right there. They're both being relatively silent here. And he's going to get bored of looking at this in just a second. So he's just going to be moving away. Pretty interesting. This is going to be a pretty interesting engagement, though. So he kind of moves towards underpass. He's still just looking at this point. This is kind of hunting. They know that Engine has a gun saved from the previous round, and both k0nfig and Major there just have their knives out, and they just aren't aware of each other's presence until that happens. So k0nfig oddly gets a knife kill, and I found that to be pretty funny. So finally, another gun round. It's going to be pretty fast A play once again, actually setting up for what seems to be an exec, but what OptiC are electing to do with this is that instead of waiting for the smokes here, both k0nfig and Gade actually ran out with the smokes, and what that usually can allow terrorist entry fraggers to do is that CTs, as they're pulling out their counter nades, will get surprised by just a couple players running into the bomb site. So the idea behind that is just simply catch the CTs with a nade in their hands, and it doesn't work out for them, as k0nfig has to clear a lot there. There's still downside of that is that you have to clear a lot of angles as you're running out, so it doesn't allow you to have really pristine crosshair placement where if everything were smoked out, there's a chance that config could have found a kill there. But it's kind of a risk you take that at the higher levels the metagame just runs so much deeper, and there's a chance that it works. And it works pretty frequently, I would say, against a lot of high-tier competition. So config running out with Gade, and pretty standard back-and-forth trades there. Nothing too special about that round. Just gets the trade and then falls off of it. So, another gun round. This one is looking like a little bit more of a default here. You can see that Gade and config are setting up for A smokes, but k0n and Snappy are actually going to be working underpass. Yugi does find that opening pick towards mid, and that's when the smokes come out, which should be pulling back the opposing CT. Xantarez is worrying more about connector right now than the actual A hit because Calyx is on the bomb site, so config is just waiting right now with Gade, and they're hoping that their teammates can find something off of this because the whole play was set up so that really it would be a distraction, hopefully catch someone in the back or the side of the head, but Xantarez was a little too wary of that. So config and Gade are just going to be moving out right now, and nice trade from config there is going to get this to a 2v3. They're just creeping out on the bomb site. Notice the route once again is moving on the right side. They're not moving into the bomb site directly. But with his teammates' control towards mid, he does plant towards triple. That's pretty much the best plant spot he can choose at this point. And he does spot engine here. Something I find kind of interesting about the way config decides to play that is that he just decides to keep taking the duel, and that's kind of a hallmark of config's play, is that very frequently he will just elect to take fights, even though that does give his opponent an in to the round. What I think a lot of players would do at the professional level is that they would see the fight towards engine, and then they would just kind of hug this box right here. What hugging the box does is that it now creates another crossfire that his teammates can now play off of him, but instead he just chooses to keep taking the fight. And I don't really blame him too much, but he is a very impressive aimer, but that can get your team into a little bit of trouble sometimes if you give up free kills when you don't need to. So they're going to be going for mid control, and the way they do it is pretty standard. Top mid smoke, molly towards connector, window smoke, and config's just looking for the fights. Really great shot onto Paz, but he gets taken out by engine, but is quickly traded. Just another one of their anti-eco plays. Nothing too crazy, just pretty much everyone towards mid and B, and they're kind of posturing themselves to go towards B, but config just wins kind of a lot of fights there, or wins 1.5 fights, which is really enough. So they decide to go for mid control this time with a triple flash, so kind of a far one, a short one, and one that actually goes to the side of the box, and config's going to be smoking out window. Seems to be his general role on any kind of mid plays they make. And he's just worried about a boost towards Cat now. And he's going to get flashed in. This is really standard, just barrage control. So using the timing of the smoke here, he's actually going to look over it. And I think that flash kind of threw him off there, so he's going to get taken out. But it's kind of similar to the Cloud9 strat, which is pretty famous and popular right now, where you throw a top connector smoke, and one of the connector players tries to make a play through it, but it's just that Xantarez was a little too wary of that happening, and that flashbang, I think, made config end up losing the duel for certain there, and now he's going to elect to buy a scout. The scout is a little weird for me, given that they have Yugi, and Yugi is pretty nuts with the scout usually, but I think kind of a late purchase on config's part is what made him end up purchasing that. So he's trying to get some damage onto Xantarez. He does find the wall tag, but all of his teammates are dead now. 1v4 was just a 1v5, and he does some good damage here, so not too bad, but team kind of just fell apart before anything had really happened for him. And now, pretty much forced onto a full save here so that they can buy into the last round. OptiC are going to just go for a really standard B hit. This is the double flash. Both these flashes that he throws are rather strong, as I mean, we can watch some of Engine's perspective and then after configs. So throws the deep one, then he throws a high one. Engine has to back up from it, and now config is going to be going in with his team. But I would actually go as far to say that the OptiC members weren't as far up as they could have been to scale with those flashes effectively. By the time the flashes went off, they were mollied, 1, and 2, they weren't really out. And usually you want kind of at least one guy to be jumping out with that second flash, just so that you can have some more space. Because what's crazy is that if that guy that's jumping out is completely blind, as long as he's strafing into the bomb site, it just creates a lot of crosshair disruption, creates a lot of confusion for the CTs, but no one seemed to be really ready to go that deep. So this is going to be another, instead of a 1-2-2, which we saw a lot from them, where they had 2 palace, 2 ramp, 1 mid, this is actually just a 3-2, and it was going to be just a 3-2 split relatively quickly, and not too much thought went into this call, it looks like, as they have no map control now, and Space Soldiers are even able to gamble stack towards the site. You can see that all of them are already right here, but yeah, just going to be using their utility to do a really standard A exec here. Great shot from him, config, but Xanter is playing on the side of the smoke there. I think he was actually in it, is able to just take him out there, so pretty decent first half from config. I think you can see some of his characteristics already, that he just likes to take a lot of the duels. He's very fast at aiming, and he hits headshots just with such quick ability. I think you can also see some of his flaws already, that he likes to take almost too many fights at times, and that could, in a sense, give the other team a little bit more clutch potential if they get the kill onto config. So sometimes in man-up situations, he does seem a little too ambitious with his firefight attempts. But this round, we're just going to be seeing a pretty standard pistol, 2-1-2. Config's angle there, not the most simple angle, playing around that stairs position, but plays around the smoke, but a good flash from the other Space Soldiers players is going to get them in the site. But config, knowing, I mean, he's getting a lot of sound cues right now, so he's able to really take advantage of that. And again, he chooses to take this fight against Xanterez that not 100% necessary there, in terms of just if his team could defuse the bomb and wait for Xanterez to wide swing there, but instead he just continues to take the fight, and that's just another hallmark characteristic of config, just continues to take fights. He hits one headshot, I mean, he's going to go for a second headshot a lot of the time, it seems like. But really solid pistol from him, good awareness that he could get into that bomb site the way he did through the smoke, so that is going to get him a free kill onto the planter. So he does have some good awareness in a lot of these rounds. So now he elects to buy the M4 with no utility, does get head armor. That would have been a pretty fatal error had he have not gotten head armor. But he's just going to be playing a really, just, I guess, pugnacious position. Just wants to take the fights. Very willing to take the fights. And it's not like it's the most dangerous position, as you can just play around this triple position. Against pistols, it's very strong, because if you just show side of your body, it takes them quite a few shots to get you out of here, but he is just going to be without utility. So I would suggest playing around here, if not farther back, but because Gade is playing in such an aggressive position, he has to be in some kind of space that he can help him out. And if Gade's connector weren't covered, Gade couldn't play the position that he's in, and I'm sure this is just a setup that they have gone over at some point or another, which they really like to run on these second round buys. So Space Soldiers going up cat there. Config probably got a call at some point, but takes the duel against Major and is going to get taken out. But his team's still able to close that round out, and he gets his M4 back, so not too big of a deal. Now, though, we're going to see him take some different positioning here. Good smoke, though, from Yugi or good molly is going to make that smoke a lot more advantageous for the CTs than it is for the Ts. And that was just a really good counterplay by Yugi. As we can see, though, config does like to rotate from window to the connector position. So this is just a really standard rotation. It keeps track of a lot of the map right now, but at this point, he's getting the call that they should be towards B, at least one of them. And knowing that there's only 2 left, looks like he is going to just aggress. And this is something that really should just be done more by all players. Bentet's probably the master at this, of just aggressing whenever information is gifted to you, and you can get into a position that the T's, if they decide to go back or retreat, that they would run into this and they would really have a hard time dealing with it. So now, instead of catching them as they're running back with a good off-angle position, he's just going to be finding a quick flank onto Major here. And I mean, this was just so enabled because he decided to take the aggressive positioning that he did towards T apartments. So now again, he's just in a really good spot. If Major decided to go back towards B, then config would have been in a great position to catch him. But Gade is going to play a good angle, and Major, I mean, that was a really tall task for Major at that point. Low HP plus trying to secure that 1v2, that was just really tough for him. But config played it really well. His positioning was actually very strong in that sense. So, another anti-eco. He likes to play this triple position. We can see that it is one of his favorites. And again, Gade is going to be playing pretty much to watch Palace. This isn't really the same exact setup they had before, but it has a very similar idea. One thing, though, is that Gade is behind a little bit more cover here. He's not as exposed, so that he has a way to fall back. He has a couple other positions to choose from. But config, again, he's just kind of juggling these 2 angles, and has a relatively successful round here, as he does know that engine is still here, so catches him off guard like that. And that's kind of another trait of config, is that he frequently catches people off guard by pushing them. And that's not something that you see in a lot of players. A lot of players like to take the passive duel in a lot of these circumstances and just say, hey, okay, if I know that guy's there, I'm not going to really worry about it too much, because pushing him gives the T there an opportunity to find a kill, find an opening into that bomb site. But config knows that if the guy is just going to be sitting there at the pro meta, it's very unlikely that he's just going to be holding that angle, because just anyone swinging there is usually advantaged quite a bit. So an aggressive play towards mid now. Config is looking for something, but at this point, there's going to be a lot of calls that Space Soldiers are out towards A. So again, notice that instead of rotating back through connector passively, he takes an aggressive rotation. He pushes as opposed to just falling back. Just is already on a quick flank. They haven't even planted yet, and this good counter utility coming out from his teammates is really enabling him here, because they're so worried about trying to get that bomb down and get into a better position, Space Soldiers that is, that it gives config a really easy time on the flank. And now, I mean, his teammates delayed them so long, took enough fights, that config gets a 2k on the flank there, and that was one enabled by his teammates just kind of keeping Space Soldiers guessing about when they're going to fight, when they're going to peek. And it was also 2 that config decided to make the aggressive rotation. He took what he had, the position he had at mid, and instead of falling back to connector, decides to push. So 12-8 is the lead here. Config is going to throw a really early flash for Yugi. That usually indicates that Yugi had a bad spawn, and to peek mid comfortably, you usually, as an opper, want to get flashed to peek it. So config, again, playing his favorite position, triple, surprisingly loses that duel. Really good early bullet accuracy and burst potential coming out from config, but surprisingly doesn't hit the spray there. And I actually would go as far to say that wasn't a hard spray. That was actually relatively easy. So maybe, I mean, he's just got good first bullet accuracy. I mean, just remarking on things that I'm seeing, I'm sure that he is really good. He is really strong at spraying. So this round here, Space Soldiers called, actually, should just fast forwarded it. Space Soldiers actually have a technical issue here, so we're actually going to have a pretty long delay. And this is really kind of strange because it kind of switches them teams and things. Yes, hello? Administrator. So they should be coming back into this relatively shortly, though. So k0nfig, though, I mean, good aggressive player, good first bullet accuracy. I wouldn't go as far to say he's been exceptional on the fly utility usage, but most of the spots that he's played thus far have not required that. I think the kind of most interesting smoke he threw was when he was top connector and he threw one to bottom connector, and that's really it, I'd say. So Yugi again trying to make that same play with the Molotov, and it actually does find an opening towards the window. That's a good nade as it takes down Paz to 86. Could I mean, if it were any better though, it would have put Paz in the dink territory or dink range. So k0nfig playing around Yugi actually decides to pick up the op. So considers himself a hybrid. Not going to shy away from it, as it does open up quite a few opportunities for CT players. You get to play different angles that you otherwise would probably not choose to do so with. And really good shot again on Xantarez there. So Major is pretty much just stuck relatively far away, but we can see that k0nfig again is going to be going for an aggressive peek there. I mean, just at the end there, k0nfig not really too worried about giving up a free 1v1. He's just looking for information. And with an op, I mean, you don't. That's the gun that of all guns you're okay with taking the 1v1 with. You don't really worry too much about taking a duel with that because it kills in one bullet. If you get the jump on him, find the angle, hit the shot, it's fine. So now though we're going to see some of k0nfig's counter utility. Throws a couple flashbangs towards the bomb site in order to try to slow this pushdown. He knows that one player was towards underpass, so he decides to, instead of helping his team towards the bomb site, he's going to focus on this position. But with Major dead now, after Yugi kills him, he can now turn his attention back to the bomb site as he attempts to stop this plant here. But Calyx makes a really heads-up play. Doesn't actually plant at the edge of the smoke, as that would have been a little too easy to be spammed by. He actually plants a little farther back, which doesn't enable his team with the same opportunities that they would have otherwise, but it's still a strong plant. So utility coming out finally. k0nfig kind of whiffed a Molotov there, but is now encroaching on the bomb site. Decides to pick up the op, but that flank from Paz that I was talking about earlier finally comes out, and that's going to do k0nfig in there. So still has great utility, or great money, and now it's kind of just showing his second option on a lot of these CT rounds. Instead of going towards that triple box, on gun rounds he definitely prefers to play around window, help out Yugi, or whoever is playing towards that spot. Looks like Yugi actually is going to be playing, they're going to be playing a different setup, as Yugi right now is towards CT, so he's just going to be responsible for that A bomb site. k0nfig was going to be playing that jungle position. But as the T's start to come out of B, k0nfig is going to be showing his rotation here. So he likes to come out on the left side and just continue to take the fights over and over again against the T's. That 2K is already so beneficial for his team, and they're able to secure the round off of it. So 15-9 scoreline. k0nfig's looking pretty on the scoreboard here. Actually, this is not correct, because if you die in the first... Matchmatic is weird with how the scores come out there. So denying more mid control by throwing that smoke at the bottom of connector. Him and Gate are just going to be posted up. And k0nfig kind of guesses through the smoke, but again, I'd say that's partially not having the greatest spray. Xantarez there was just stationary, and k0nfig fell down but was unable to control the spray that he was pretty much gifted there. He really should have had the easy trade onto Xantarez, but instead kind of whiffs it, and seems to be a trend for him in this match to not have the most precise of sprays. So something he can maybe work on, something that just kind of shows that he is human despite having some of the most insane games in recent memory. So again, he was playing around that jungle position, allows him to help out towards A and mid pretty effectively, but his team's just relegated to pistols right now. That dink onto Paz, though, gets him pretty ambitious as he spams that toll booth out. Doesn't find the kill until Paz decides to push towards the CT position. This is pretty much a hopeless round for him, and right now he's just trying to accomplish a any kind of damage. Any kind of damage is good damage at this point. It's likely that they're going to be buying into the upcoming round, so really, if he can take a couple guns out of their hands, you can see that the Spatial Soldier's cash isn't that healthy. If a couple of more of them died and they had to rebuy AKs here, that could have put Major on at 1.3k, and pretty much everyone else on the team would have had, or 1.7k, and no, it's 1.3. Yeah, it's 1.3. So everyone else on the team would have had pretty much under $1,000 if they had to rebuy AKs. So Pause comes out from pretty sure the OptiC side here, and notice that k0nfig elects, instead of getting an M4, he decides to buy full utility, so he's valuing his utility here more than guns. I, as k0nfig, might choose to buy an M4, though. I mean, I don't need to give my opinion on everything, but I think with some of the shots he's been hitting thus far, it's really going to be benefiting him a lot to have a better weapon, as he doesn't even decide to use any kind of utility this entire time, and he's just going to get taken out on the bomb site. I mean, that's the same result whether or not he has nades or not. So I personally feel like he should have used it. I mean, at that point, if you have the utility that you have, I think a lot of players are going to just right-click a smoke somewhere, but k0nfig just holds all of his nades, and again, his on-the-fly nade usage not really standing out too much as a player in the micro sense, but his aim doing work for him once again. I mean, he finds the dink onto Xantares there, and that enables his teammate to get a gun. But regardless, his team's going to lose that round, and he trades up Yugi opt for M4. So OptiC are kind of just running through their setup book right now. Instead of playing previous kind of the 2-1-2 that they were doing, it was kind of more like a 2-2-1. They're running a 3-1-1. As you can see, k0n and Snappy are playing towards the cat, and that shooting that vent out for them is going to help them get some space without giving up too much information. But k0nfig, he's good at throwing counter flashes. He's going to slow down that Space Ultra's push a little bit there. But they're starting to just scale onto the bomb site. He's looking for just anything through the smoke right there. Not really lining his shots up with the spot where the plant was, but I don't think he actually heard the plant in this case. And that's a really good smoke to get Xantares stuck in a bad spot. So he's just waiting for his team at this point, and just everyone's using all their utility, as they should. And unable to really control that landing spray is gonna put his team in a pretty bad spot now. So they have a 15-14. I mean, there's still advantage, of course, but now they have to buy pretty bad guns here. But we'll see how they decide to use it, as I'm sure that they just want to finish this one in regulation, not relegation. So he's playing close with the MP9. Notice his teammate Gade has the only other SMG, and they're both playing close. So they're playing to their gun's strengths. They're not going to be playing too far back, as it just obviously doesn't make sense. You don't want to play SMG at range. So, and does opt to buy smoke and a flash here. So again, throws a really nice smoke for bottom connector that denies a little bit more connector mid control. And his team, though, is going to clean it up pretty well here, as Snappy finds 2 on the bomb site. Another good flash to just slow down the last T, and that's really going to do it. So as you can see from this, k0nfig, kind of player that he is, you can see that he's really good at aiming. I would say I would go as far to say that his like first burst accuracy is probably top 20 in the world. He's incredibly accurate at just any kind of aim duels. He's so fast as well. His rifle is just extremely strong. He even picked up the op for a second there, was able to use that effectively. But his spray was a little questionable. So in terms of overall riflers, a lot of rifling is what happens in your first 4 or 5 bullets. But sometimes with rifling, you do have to spray a little bit. Didn't have the best sprays in this game. I don't think that's actually the most characteristic thing of him. I don't know if I don't think he always whiffs sprays, but there are players that do specialize quite a bit with their mechanical training, and when they do so, it's definitely within the realm of possibility that he does neglect some of the spray control training that some players, I'd say newer players, like to really focus on. As you get better and better, you don't really find yourself spraying as much, so it does fall down lower on your tier list of things you need to work on. So that's just me looking at his mechanics. I'd say his movement wasn't anything that I really would take too much note of either, though. He just kind of took a lot of standard peeks. Was pretty good on the counter strafes, that no matter where he counter strafed and ended up, he was still able to hit his burst, but I would say that more is predicated on his aim being really strong than his movement. So other things about him as a player, T-side, very confident at just kind of taking early duels. Usually he seems to be the second guy in a lot of these plays, but I think that fits him really well. He's really good at trading. If he knows where a guy is, not only can he just snap to their head or body very quickly, but I mean, he's really just not. He's confident enough that he's going to take those duels, and that's something a second guy in has to do. He has to be confident enough to get the trade. If you see your first teammate die, you never want to stop. You never want to just give them an early 5v4 and be like, okay, I'm okay with that, we're going to slow down now. No, you got to trade. So that's something that he's really good at doing. And when he went to B in one of the rounds where he exited balcony, that's all he did. He got the trade, and then he was traded himself. And that's kind of where I'd say his strengths lie. In kind of lower man situations, I think he's a little too eager to peek, but with the aim that he has, I don't think it's all that bad. I think since his first bullet accuracy is so good, first few bullet accuracy, I'd say, is so strong that it's okay that he kind of takes the fights that he does. It's not ideal that he's always peeking the way he is, but k0nfig, he's a man of confidence, and he showed that here. So I hope you guys learned something here, and I'm going to be coming out with more of these, of course. I really wanted to start churning them out again, and I know you guys have been waiting, so hope you guys got something out of this, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.